Thanks very much to Oli for having me, and happy World Kindness Day, everyone. I'm Luis Gallardo, and I am the founder of the World Happiness Foundation and the World Happiness Fest. We celebrate happiness as a human right everywhere in the world. The same way that we are celebrating kindness, we celebrate happiness. And this is why it's so important to work together towards a world with freedom, consciousness, and happiness for all. This is our theme, and this is how I want to give these words during this amazing day, because kindness is a fundamental driver for peace, and I call it fundamental peace. And I want to show you a very short video where we can go deeper into what I consider a very strategic framework, and is always finding the sweet spot, the convergence between different elements. And in this case, the key three elements are freedom, consciousness, and happiness. So let me show you this short video and we'll talk about it later. So what do you think? Freedom to be, consciousness to expand and evolve, and happiness to share. I especially like the happiness part, because normally when we think of happiness, it's about being happy. Happy birthday. I am happy today. I feel happy today. But the reality is that after so many thousands of research all over the world, we have realized that happiness is here to be shared. Happiness is to be embraced. It's about being happiness more than being happy. What a subtle difference, right? Because when we are what we want to be, that's the first moment where we really can make a difference. The same happens with kindness. So it's not about being kind, it's about being kindness. So try to do it as an exercise, because when you embrace, you start to dissolve. When you dissolve, everything starts to expand. And this is very, very important in order to achieve that state where everybody can achieve a state of fundamental peace. And as you can see, freedom is very important. And sometimes we think that it's really up to the conditions to be free. But the reality is that when we are going deeper into our inner beings and we connect with ourselves, that's the first step to be free. To be free from fear, to be free from uncertainty. Right now, this World Kindness Day is happening when the whole world is going through a huge pause. I call this a big pause. We had the time to go deeper inside, but many of us get really anxious. We got really, really agitated because we thought that we were losing our freedom. However, for many other people, it was a really important moment to go deeper inside, to have a pause. To have a pause, because what we know from contemplation, and contemplation is not meditation and it's not mindfulness, it's a way that we use our mind, our active mind, to look at things, to focus, and to really go deeper into understanding. So for example, when we look at kindness and we really go deeper and contemplate, we are going to realize that it's bringing us so much opportunity. So this big pause is giving many of us the opportunity to go deeper into ourselves, to actually go deeper into freedom. And when we go to the state of freedom, we are. So for me, freedom is the essence of being. And when we are, we expand our consciousness. And basically, expanding our consciousness is moving into a state of mindfulness. So we can know what's going on, but why is it happening? This is a key question. So when something happens to you, you have to ask yourself, why is this happening to me? And then when we go beyond, and we really want to understand how the world is working, we have to go into another level, another deeper level, and we have to ask, what for? So what for is this happening to me? So this is so interesting, because when we combine freedom consciousness, and we know that consciousness is helping us to expand, we can get into a state where happiness is here to be shared. And when we share happiness, that's the first step in order to be into another level of societies where every human being can thrive. So something that I want to share with you very briefly is the framework that I use, and it helps me so much in order to understand how the world works. And you would see that forgiveness, that kindness, that gratefulness are all states, and they are all attitudes that really help us to make a difference in the world. So I call this the exponentials of happiness and well-being. And I want to show you the big picture. I love system thinking. And system thinking is all about the interconnections between things. So here what you can see is that in order to get, and now probably I don't have to explain very much what exponential is, because we've seen this with COVID. And we've seen that one day we have one case, and the day after we have 5, and the day after we have 25, and the day after we have 100. So exponentiality is about moving super fast and multiplying by itself many times until we get to the infinite. So this is the opportunity that we have, all of us, with kindness, and this is the opportunity that we all have with happiness. It can be shared, and it can become exponential. But in order to understand how exponentials work, I want to show you this framework. And as you can see here, there are 3 fundamental components to this framework. One of them is the individual, and this is each of us. We are living in the world as individuals. But as you can see in the middle of the graphic, then we all belong to communities, and those communities belong to the collective. And around all of us, we have what I call ki, which is the energy, the life force energy of the world, and is all the energy that is inside us and outside us, and nature, because we are part of nature. And at some point, we've been trying to work and understand nature just as a separate entity to us. But when we are nature, and we understand that we are nature, combined with energy, this gives us a full perspective of the impact that we can make in the world. So actually, when you look at this framework, you see that we have an individual approach, that we have a community approach, and that we have a collective approach to things. And this is very important, because at every single level here, then what we have is an opportunity. So for example, let's focus on the individual. The only way we are going to evolve into our existence, into becoming the maximum potential that we want to become, is if we understand that, first of all, we have to be aware. We have to be aware of what's happening. We have to be aware of what's going on. We have to be aware of what's in ourselves and what is outside. And this by itself becomes a really difficult element. So being aware, understanding what's going on, and there are many techniques in order to understand what awareness is, and it's really paying attention to ourselves and what's going on around us. Once we start understanding what awareness is, then we can move into another level, and I call this second level mindfulness. And mindfulness is one of those levels where you know why things are happening. You are conscious of your thoughts. You are conscious of why things are happening. And that state is one of those states where you feel good, you feel really, really good, because you are starting to understand why one thing is happening at some point, and why a second thing is happening right after that. You start understanding why I have this type of relationships, why do I have this type of friends, why do I live where I live. So you really start seeing that, okay, you are part of something that is huge, and you get to that through mindfulness. And then when you understand what is really going on, you get into a state of transcendence. And that state is one of those where really you make a difference in the world. So probably you are watching this, you're already between mindfulness and transcendence, because you are interested in making a positive impact. Now what you want to know is how you can make it. And just by being part of this amazing community, you are already being wired, and you're already being driven into making a transcendental change. But then if we move right to the left, to the other side of the collective, which is everybody around the world, and this is about all living beings, we see that there are 3 levels as well. And those 3 levels apply to the individual, by the way, because this is a matrix. So we have a level of consciousness, we have a level of subconsciousness, and we have a level of unconsciousness. And this is very interesting, because all the research shows that at some point, once we go beyond a certain age, and that's between 30 37 years old, we are already, almost everything that happens in our life is in moving into the unconscious and the subconscious. This is really interesting, because we are really moving in autopilot. That's why it's so important that since we go to the school and we start studying, that we embed into the education system those values and those socio-emotional skills that are going to help us in order to understand subconsciousness, that is going to help to understand how the unconsciousness work as well. So imagine the collective has a consciousness, but the collective has an unconsciousness as well. And in this case, when you watch TV and you see marketers, they really know how to go into the subconscious, because they know that at some point, without realizing, we are going to react because of the minerals of our brain, because of the way we've been educated into different stimulus. So it's very important that we are aware about those. It's very important that we are aware about what is the impact of fear in our life. What is the impact of sadness? What is the impact of being proud, of belonging? One thing is to understand that fears exist. The second thing is to understand what is the impact in ourselves, and what is the impact in our subconscious as well. The only way we can do that is by awareness and by mindfulness. So keep that in mind. It's very important that we understand what's going on, why it's going on, and what is the reason why it's happening. And that's going to happen at the conscious level and at the unconscious level. So keep that in mind, because whatever we want to achieve through kindness in the world has to be embraced. We have to be kindness, we have to be happiness, but at the same time, we have to understand that there are forces that we don't control, that we don't see. And at some point, it's super important that we let things go, that we really get out of control of things, because that way we are going to be releasing a lot of that subconsciousness in the world. And then the third part, which is, I would say, the most important one, and we normally forget, is the communities part. And that's why these communities of practice, celebrating kindness, the World Happiness Fest and Foundation, and we celebrating happiness as a human right, are so important. Because communities have cultures, communities have beliefs, and communities have rules. So if you belong to a community that empowers you, that allows you to maximize your impact, you are in the good community. But many of us are born in communities, from families to cities to countries to regions where the rules and the beliefs are so strong that they don't allow us to really grow, and they limit us. So freedom is to start understanding that we have to expand beyond the limits of communities. That communities, when they are good, they are really good. They actually help us to flourish because they build security, because they give us trust. But when communities are not helping us, they are creating layers around us that are going to be very difficult to get rid of. So watch out what type of communities you belong and choose carefully, because that's the way where you can really maximize the impact. When we look at the research on happiness, the one single reason, if we have to choose one, that creates the highest levels of happiness in the world is about relationships. It's about meaningful relationships. It's about having real friends. It's about having people who we can trust. And that's part of the communities I'm talking about. So look for communities that really help you maximize your impact, that really help you flourish. Communities that are weird and wired to thrive. So keep in mind this framework. It's very easy framework. It's just you, your community, and everybody. And with that, know that there is a level of I know, a level of I don't know. And the level of I don't know is not just about mental or intellectual thinking. It's about the emotional thinking. It's about the feeling. It's about understanding who we are, how do we work. And something very important here, and you would see, is that this is now evolving even further because exponential technologies are connecting us, are expanding the reach of what we do and how we do it. And because there are other scientific research and theories and methodologies like system dynamics or quantum physics that are allowing us to understand that the observer changes the reality. So we as observers, at some point, we don't need to do much. We just have to observe, and the reality is going to change. But if we are proactive with our kindness, with our empathy, with our forgiveness, with our compassion, with our love, we are going to provoke a profound change in the world. Because new systems are emerging. And I call the new system emerging Happytalism. And I say, and I think, and I feel that we are going to have new paradigms very, very soon. I think that the systems that brought to humankind to the level and to the state we are today are gonna be evolving in the future. And that evolution is going to be bringing us new education systems, new health systems, new financial systems. And we are seeing that already happening. We are seeing that now, like how this little COVID-19 is shaking the whole paradigm of what's going on. So I call it Happytalism, and I invite you to be a Happytalist in this World Kindness Day. So keep in mind this framework: you, me, in community, with the collective. How does it play? And then keep the simple 3 words that are brought to you, which are freedom, consciousness, and happiness. Put them all together, and we are wired to make a profound difference in the world. Thank you so much. Thank you, Oli, for having me, and have an amazing rest of this Kindness Day to celebrate all over the world. Take care. Bye-bye.